Hey, my name is Zeb, and thank you all for 7,777 subscribers. You can consider this a small subscriber special, I guess. Today, I'll be talking and explaining my Dungeons & Dragons-like game to y'all. Maybe you can play it yourself with your friends then. This game has no real name yet. It firstly was called Spiele, which means games in German, but nowadays it's just called the story game. I originally created it because I was watching a bit of D&D content like around 2019 and I wanted to play it. So I created my own version of it based on what I think I know and what I like. And then I played with a friend. I completed 2 campaigns with them. I also completed 2 games with another friend. I also finished a game with my parents. And I have a game going on with Yellow and his brother. So people seem to enjoy it. And during that time I tried adding to the game, adding new things, etc. And I want to present it now. So basically, it's a very simplified version of D&D in my eyes. More similar to video game RPGs than tabletop, I guess. The biggest difference is that you don't have to have a character at the beginning. You're building your character while you're playing, basically. Before starting the first session of the campaign, you simply ask the player a couple questions. What the character's name should be, their class, their favorite food, and their favorite thing. If you start a new game afterwards, they cannot choose the same name. That way, they don't always use the same name. Like for example, their own name. I mean, they can always have the same food and thing, but that doesn't matter. But having a different one is always encouraged. Their favorite food is an item that they can find on their journey. It doesn't have to be at the beginning or end. It's an item that always heals full, but it can only be found once. I mean, except if the session creator decides to give more, of course. Your favorite thing is an attack that uses all your MG, which I'm going to explain in a moment. It's basically a magic stat. The favorite thing attack is inspired by Earthbound, because Ness's attack is his favorite thing. What the attack does is chosen by the session creator. Can be attack, healing, or something else. The stats that the story game uses is HP, MG, attack, defense, learn, and kills. That's what every class uses. There are of course some others, but I'll explain in a moment. The HP is usually the age they are at IRL, when they start a game, unless when the class they chose say otherwise. So if the player is 18 years old when the campaign starts, the character's HP is 18 at the start of the game. In this game, there are no EXP. A level up happens if you get enough kills, usually. Defense cannot grow naturally, only armor and sometimes weapons can raise it. The learn stat is a stat that increases through sleeping in an inn or through specific items like a book. If you got enough, you unlock a spell, since you start without any at the beginning, at least usually. If they have a check spell, that usually is unlocked at the beginning. Like for example, 2 learn points give someone a fire spell with a cool name. Alright, MG is MAGIC, which is an acronym. It means mighty and great ignorant craziness. You basically use the evilness of yourself to cast spells. The more evil you are, the more often you can cast spells. Spells means spells and actions outside of simple fighting, like a strong attack, checking, fire ice plant spells, etc. It wasn't always called MAGIC, by the way. In the German original, it's called MAGGI. What I'm currently explaining is the localization, which is Maggi, which is a seasoning brand from Switzerland. In the meaning of the word, it's called mächtig allzu grausame, gedankenverlierbare Irrealität. Also in the game universe of mine, the Maggi bottles are still just seasoning bottles, and the Maggi company is still producing these. Just so you all know, just because it's called magic, it's not magic, in a way. A normal person has around 30 mg. Lower means they're more friendly, up to 0, which I think only newborns have. And 666 being the maximum a normal human can have, usually. However, it theoretically can reach 777. Anything higher are godlikes. Godlikes being creatures that hack the world, are gods or are above gods. There's also MDEF, Mighty Depression Ending Form, mächtige Depression einer Form, that goes from -7 to 7. The happier the person is, the higher it goes. I don't usually use it, however. It would be used if someone would use an MG attack. There's also LOSS, Level of the Suicide Stage, but I scrapped that. I had no use for it, it is similar to MDEF. Yes, the acronym thing was inspired by Undertale. I love Undertale, it's one of my favorite games of all time. There are also some special stats, block rate and dodge rate. It goes from 0 to 100%. Every time an attack happens against someone with dodge or block rate, by the way the person can have both, if you're lucky, you completely dodge or block the attack. It's good for hard mode classes. Poison. A weapon or a person can be poisonous. It goes like this. If you get poisoned, you get a certain amount of damage for a certain amount of rounds, like 4 rounds to damage. After rounds are gone, or the battle's over, it's gone. Of course, the poison can have also infinite rounds. It's also stackable, which means 10 rounds 1 damage, and they continuously attack you. You can get 10 damage per round if they continue on attacking you. However, not more. You can also attack more than once. A character, player or an NPC, can attack you more than once, or can attack 2 people at a round. Maybe through a weapon or just naturally from that person. This stat can technically go from 2 to technically infinite amount of attacks, if you really want that. You as a session creator simply have to find a balance between fun and power trip. Ignores def. It's a very simple stat. When attacking with the stat, you ignore the defense of the enemy. Same goes if an enemy has that stat. Begins. Usually, the player is the one who has the first turn. Sometimes though the enemy does. With this stat, the one who has it begins. I don't know what happens when both enemy and you have that stat. I think it would probably just cancel each other out. Oh, one last thing before we go into the classes. If your character goes into the minus with their attack, they don't heal the enemy, they just don't do any damage. Same goes if the DEF is higher than your attack. You'll still just deal 1 damage to the enemy. That way you can always defeat an enemy, technically. If you or the enemy however go into minus with the defense, like -2, they don't do +2 damage, they do ×2 damage. With -1, it would be though +1 damage, since you cannot ×1 an enemy attack. But I'm unsure with that for now. So now we get to the classes, and there are a lot of classes. Every class, unless said otherwise, can gain 4 spells, the last one being their favorite thing. The ones I made, 3 normal modes, 2 easy mode, 2 hard mode, a game specific class and 1 meta class. The normal mode classes are Determination, inspired by Undertale. This class has level and kills. If they get enough kills, their HP, MG, attack and level gets raised by 1. Kills are being set back to 0 then. Also, this class cannot wield any guns. If they choose to use one otherwise, the gun's damage is being divided by 2. So they can still use it, but gets a debuff. Termination, inspired by Overtime, an Undertale fan game. This class levels through boss kills, and only bosses. You can still keep track of the kill count, but that's your choice. I choose to. Once a level up happens, their HP gets increased by 5 and their MG and attack by 1. They can only wield guns, and if they choose to attack with no gun, like a knife or a sword, their attack gets divided by 2. More on guns and non-guns later. Deviation. This class cannot wear any weapons whatsoever. However, instead of 4 spells, this class has 8 spells. Each kill through a spell gives you 1 MG. Every 5 spell kills, it gives you 1 HP and 1 attack too. Spells are still though unlocked through the learning stat. You can still attack normally too, but it doesn't help you too much, as you don't gain any spell kills. The easy mode classes are Destructive Rage, Zerstörungswut in German. It's basically determination, but kills give you soul points, MG divided by 8 divided by 3, which you can hire your attack and HP with. They're basically stat points. Each kill gives you also 1 MG. Downfall, inspired by Doom. At the start of the game you have around 100 HP, your MG is between 200 and 400, your attack is 3 to 6, you have 4 weapon slots, 1 armor slot, and you level up through kills. It works like Determination, but you can have a strong power trip. Hard mode, Bad Luck Soul, Pechseele in German, inspired by Dark Souls. You have 10 HP, 80 MG, 1 attack, 0 dodge rate. With this class, enemies are also made with more of a challenge. Also leveling up is harder. And any weapon you use is attack divided by 2. But when you level up, you get 2 points, which you can add to either attack, HP and dodge rate. You also get 1 MG for free. Which means you can tactically add your points to your dodge rate, if you feel like a gambler. Bad Fate, inspired by I Wanna Be the Guy. You have 1 HP, 0 MG, 0 attack, and your dodge rate is 90%. Leveling up is also harder, however, you have a weak gun. Usually, like Pistol, which has attack 0 to 1. Life is also a living hell for you and your surroundings. This class is usually only being played with a campaign that has this class in mind. Also, to be fair, there should be a lot of checkpoints when you make a campaign with that. I played with Yellow actually. I might hit him up so that he can talk more about this class. Hey Yellow, you know how I'm currently making a video on the story game? I'm right now at Bad Fate. Do you want to send a voice message or something to talk about your experience with Bad Fate? So basically my experience with Bad Fate was... and then... but when I tried a different way... So But yeah, that was basically my experience with Bad Fate. Basically, if you have a masochistic friend and you're sadistic yourself, it's perfect. Yellow, as you heard, didn't enjoy it. And here's the game-specific class. So there's this alien race I call Value. They can use guns but also other weapons too. The standard MG would be around 100, like 30 for humans. They usually have more HP than humans and more attack, but they also level up harder. Not as hard as the hard mode one, but a little harder. I made this class since my parents are currently in a game with this class. And now we get to the meta class. You can technically skip this as I never tested it out. I just made it for fun. It's called the Time-Bound Racer, inspired by Pizza Tower. You can choose this class once you've finished an entire campaign. It's also more like an add-on. You also have to choose another class, if you aren't just reusing the character you had before. You basically go for another lap, and then another, and then another, and then another. Your whole point is to run through the entire story again and again, trying to lap it, laps being your score. You always keep your items level and at all your stats. The NPCs in the game are also always being reset. So basically, they just see some extremely strong lunatic running from A to B, trying to be as fast as possible. Once the timer runs out, you lost. You have only 1 hour to complete the whole campaign. Though throughout the entire campaign, you can find holographic clocks, which gives you an extra 30 minutes. It may be stored in a shop, hidden in someone's house, etc. On the third lap, yes, inspired by the third lap mod, a corrupted version of you follows you, like an extra timer. The player gets a 10-minute head start though. Every lap gives you more debuffs. The fourth lap gives you less clocks, like 1 per chapter. The next, you get stopped every 30 minutes by a battle against a corruption, which gets +5 attack every lap. Next, the clocks only give you 15 minutes. The next lap, the standard enemies gets double their stats, etc, etc. The corrupted version of you that is following you is called the Time-Bound Pursuer. 100 HP, 10 attack, 5 defense, begins meta. The meta stat is every time it dies, it gets 1.2 times stronger. If the thing catches you, you don't die. You simply enter a battle against it. Little warning though. Like I said, I never tested it out, so it might not be fun at all. And I don't know how fun it would be for the players and the session creator. Alright, like I said, now we're gonna talk about what guns and non-guns are. Non-gun weapons have usually specific attack stats, and usually just attack. For example, a knife that has 2 attack, or a sword that has 10 attack. But also, let's say a sword from the void could have 20 attack, 2 defense, and a block rate of 20. A gun weapon usually has an attack range, like -5 to 5. Now of course if you're in the minus, that doesn't mean you heal them, that just means you missed. It's a gamble. Guns also need bullets. However, in my games every gun uses the same bullets. It's to make it easier for the player and myself. They're also usually cheap too, like 1 gold or whatever currency you use. Guns are usually stronger than non-guns too, but also they miss or does less damage. Also when you have a gun, it usually means it ignores your own attack, which non-gun weapons don't usually do. Alright, when entering a fight, which you do a lot as a player, you have a lot to choose from. You can fight, talk, use magic, if you have any, use an item, ask them to stop, or do nothing. Yes, you can talk to the opponent, ask him to stop or just do nothing. Which means you can go through the entire game, through the entire campaign, without killing a single person if you're smart enough. And of course, this is not Undertale. When you use the talk option, you should make up stuff. You have to tell it to the session creator. It isn't like an Undertale where you have to choose between 4 options. But you should be able to go through the entire campaign without a single kill. For better or for worse, of course. Who knows how the world works that you wanna make or that you're going through as the player. Maybe killing is good at some points. Or for the greater good. Now of course, players don't have to travel alone. Firstly, you can play with more than 1 player, like I do with Yellow and his brother, or my parents. And also, NPCs can be in your party, preferably with a class of course. When in a fight and you have an NPC in your party, you control them in their turn, either because they trust you, or they don't know what to do, or whatever. Of course the session maker can also control the NPC for whatever reason, but it's more fun if the player controls them. Now when traveling around the world, you'll likely end up at a village or a town or whatever. Maybe you'll live one and start there. There might be a restaurant which is expensive but has high HP items, a saloon or a bar with medium HP items, a pharmacy with healing items that have low HP but heal over multiple turns, like a bandage with 1 HP over 10 turns. Maybe a corner shop with sweets with low cost and low HP. Maybe weapon and armor shops, if it's in medieval times. Or just a gun shop. If it's a mall, then maybe you can find some stores that sell knives. Or maybe just a normal shop with random items here and there. I have this little joke with Yellow that McDonald's are literally everywhere. You can be in the middle of nowhere and there's just a McDonald's. So I like to implement in my games that almost every town has a McDonald's. Maybe even in the afterlife, or medieval times, or on a different planet. McDonald's are everywhere. And they sell low HP and low cost items. Also, my games are usually linear, but I, however, make them with multiple endings in mind. And I'm asking myself how the world would have reacted when another campaign starts, as every campaign plays in the same universe. However, I fucked some shit up, so there's an alternate timeline too, which I try to use less. But when making your game, don't worry about making it open world. Also, here's some random shit. For the session creator when making an enemy, you can also simply, like after 5 sessions or so, have a special enemy which doesn't have normal attack stats, for example. Like attack equals UMG plus LV divided by 2, or attack equals defense plus MDEF divided by 1.5, or whatever. This is just a reminder that you don't have to just use standard numbers for items or stats. Also, there are no dice required for this game. You can simply use random.org. And now of course all this can be modified, I don't care. If you want to give more than one favorite food to your players, change the classes around or make Bad Fate or the time-bound racer actually fun, then that's fine. I simply info dumped you all with this so you can make it for yourself and have a fun time with your friends. All I hope is that if you use this, that you'll have fun and maybe share this, so that more can play it. I'll make a webpage about it, having everything in text form, including a Bad Fate game example to inspire yourself. And I also include the leveling system. If you have any questions, you can just ask in the comments, and I'll be sure to include those on the webpage. Have fun playing my game. I've been working on it since 2019. And don't forget, we'll meet each other. I'll see you soon.